players really came at it from every angle that you can imagine. They were amazing. And I wanted it to be a 15-minute meeting, and then we were going to split up and go into 10-position meetings. And I opened the forum up, and I don't know, that you can ask these guys. I'm going to guess it went 2.5 hours. It was an amazing meeting that I think will forever keep our team bonded. As soon as it happened, I saw the long version of George Floyd, the 3.5-minute video. And when I heard him say he couldn't breathe, he's, crying out for his mom. And then I did some research and saw he played at a Texas high school, played at a Texas college. I started thinking about how many of my players in my 30-year coaching career I had coached. And that could be one of my players, which would be somebody's son. And it bothered me tremendously. And I constructed a tweet to go out. It said, I'm ashamed to say, my first thought was, how much backlash am I going to get for taking a public stance on this? And then my second thought was, how many of my former players are going to be looking at this and wanting me to say something? And the rest of the tweet went, I'm choosing my players. I'm going to push send. Well, I didn't put that out immediately. I spoke to 5 of my closest friends. And at the time, it wasn't that huge of a deal. It had just happened. And I told my players, that's the very thing we can't do anymore. I can't be that guy. So I made my mind up. I wasn't going to be that guy anymore. I was going to have the courage to speak up and push send or whatever that might be. Maybe speak to a friend, listen to somebody. So that was going on in my mind and in my heart. So I wanted to reach out to my players. So I set up a Zoom meeting, and we can talk about that Zoom meeting later. But that's how it got started for me.
We felt it was necessary, but it was a shock that it happened, and it truly showed who Coach Traylor really is. And as we move on forward through June and July, we're still really getting to know each other. And one thing we always talk about is integrity. And, that's telling the truth over a period of time. And he hasn't lied to us yet. And by actually stepping up and doing that, taking that risk on Twitter, which is a very large platform, putting this up out there, it really meant a lot.
In general, there might be a little hesitation just to see, what the reaction is. But like I said, since day one, he let it be known that, he's a player coach and he's there for the players. And that everything that he's done and that he said is for us. And he's definitely built that team environment, that team bond, whether it be going through fourth quarters and whatever we might do. He made it clear that whatever we do as UTSA football players, that we're going to do it together as a team and we're going to talk about it. So I think he handled it perfectly. And I don't think none of us were surprised that he said, we're going to talk about this. And then if there's anything, he asked us if there's anything we need from him or that we want to see from him, pertaining to the issue. So I don't think it was a surprise at all. And definitely we all appreciated that call. Even it was a long call, but it was definitely much needed. And I think a lot of people gave Coach a lot of respect and a lot more trust for how he handled that situation.
I feel like our locker room will be able to talk about it because we've been together for a long period of time, and this has been going on for years. So we all know about it. It's on social media, but we just never sit down and discuss how could we help the situation or what could we do about the situation. So I feel like in the locker room, there was no hesitation because they know us. They see us every day when we in the facility. So we're brothers. So the world can't judge us by our skin color because we're on a team. But we just have to stick together as one, like I was saying in the Zoom meeting the other day. We just have to come together as one, as people. Coach Traylor said if the world was built like a football team and they was all in the locker room together, they'd have to get along. because you're not going to judge someone by the color of their skin. You're going to look at them as a teammate. I feel like as student athletes and professional athletes as well, not even just talking about student athletes, need to use that platform because we're looked at the most. You know, people wouldn't care about us if we didn't play sports. Everyone sees us on TV every Saturday night or every Sunday, you know, so I think it would be huge for everybody, all the athletes, to use that platform and come together as athletes to speak about the situation and raise awareness and give knowledge to people, you know, who don't have knowledge on the situation or the background of police brutality among people of color. So I feel like it would be a great opportunity to, you know, speak out about it, boost the situation and not make it go away, because every time something happens like this, people forget about it a week later. So, but this time I feel like it's going to be different. I feel like no one is going to ever forget the month of May. So I feel like it's heading in the right direction.
At least one person looks up to each one of us. And I've heard a lot of coaches say, if I could save one player, if I could just save one player, that'd be great. Well, if I could help one person, that'll be great too. You know, we're going to use our platform. Later today, we're going to keep tweeting, keep Snapchatting, keep using everything that we have to get awareness so it just doesn't go away.
The way you keep it relevant, obviously, is by educating the people, you know, on the side that need to be educated, or the people who I say the subject doesn't affect every single day or the day-to-day life. So I'll say, like, you know, people who aren't of color, they don't have to deal with certain situations or you know, handle situations the type of way that people of color do. And it's not their fault, exactly, you know. So my main deal was, you can't get mad about, you know, someone not really understanding off the top, you know, how you're feeling. If you're a person of color, you know, how you're feeling on that subject. So I was saying, as it is our duty, as well as people who aren't of color but understand that, to try and educate those who don't. And by doing that word of mouth and keep pressing on it over and over and over, and not just, you know, while it's relative and, you know, maybe 2 weeks out, but you keep pressing it, you keep educating those. That's how you keep the relevance up. And I feel like until that happens, you know, we won't really necessarily see a change, because, you know, this isn't the first time that we've had, you know, tensions like this, and, you know, with other situations and shootings where people have, you know, rioted or tried to protest. But the thing is, you know, you always see it build up and then die back down. So I say the main thing is you got to keep it relevant. You got to educate. And at the same time, you got to establish some patience, because, you know, not everyone's going to understand where you're coming from, but you have to have that amount of patience and, you know, wherewithal to try and educate those who want to be educated on that. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be able to change everybody's mind, because that's just not how it works. But if you can put in, you know, that effort to try and educate them and put your best foot forward and try and help them, then at the end of the day, the decision is up to them. But you know that you put your best foot forward to try and educate them on that subject. I mean, yeah, I would say I'm frustrated, and as a lot of people are, but, you know, and I could say that it should have been handled hundreds of years ago. It should have been handled with the first shooting. It's been several shootings. So I think frustration is, you know, people can be frustrated, and a lot of us can, you know, have that anger and frustration on the subject. It's just, you know, you got to try and get the point across the right way. And, you know, some people, you know, might believe, you know, we've done it one way, that way is not working. And, you know, they try and go another way. But so just to keep it on the subject, yeah, I have some frustrations with it, but I'm going to try, and as well as my teammates, as well the guys that are on this call, are going to use our platform to try and push it and be relevant with, you know, doing stuff the right way. You know, and we know, as being student athletes in the NCAA, we have a certain way we have to carry ourselves. And we're going to use that platform, every single one of us, to try and do it the right way.
We have to be patient while we explain to our white friends or our non-black friends, because they don't understand what we go through. They haven't experienced the emotional and the physical and mental turmoil that we have gone through. And I just want to let y'all know that we have to just really be patient. We have to really, like, if we really want this to go through, really want change, we really have to harness our passion and not let it turn into rage. because that can be the difference between somebody listening to us and somebody turning the other ear and going back to what they used to do, because one guy can change the perception of how they see us.
Well, the first thing is obviously not black, and I will never understand truly what oppression feels like. There's no way of being directly in their shoes because I have white privilege, and that's due to a big societal scheme that involves racism against people of color. And point blank, that's what it is, whether we want to accept it or not. And whether I take advantage of my white privilege or not, it's always rolling for me. It's a real and present thing. And I was fired up about this topic as soon as it came out. And I was very enlightened and educated on the subject matter from my own teammates, because these guys are my family. And going around and talking to different guys, I didn't want to leave any doubt in their mind that I wasn't on their side, because it's going to take all of us, like Coach Traylor has repeatedly said. And their fight is my fight. I may not understand it, but I understand that I need to stand up for them. And we had stories that were shared on the Zoom meeting, and you just had to hear them. I mean, everyone was like a dagger to my heart, but only started a fire in my soul. And it helps, because even though I can't stand in those shoes of a black man, woman, child, each of those stories allows me to see from the window what they're experiencing and what they're facing day in and day out. And it only helps me contribute in a new way and find new ways to help them out. I wanted to be a very good listener, because before you can speak, you have to listen. And like I said, not being black, you have to listen before you can even gain your bearings on where to go with the conversation, and also how to ask for help from your black friends and my fellow black teammates. Like, hey man, like, I'm not black, I don't understand, but how do I go about really pitching in, using my platform? How can I help white people understand certain aspects that aren't getting through to us as a white community as well? Like, what does this white majority need to understand that I can help with? So the first portion of it was mainly just listening to their stories, perspectives, and also concerns and issues, because this is a huge issue and it's not new. It's been around for hundreds of years. But then when it came around to a point where I felt like I could speak, I wanted to speak up with a zero tolerance tone of voice, and really a call to action, because until the majority, white people are on board, this doesn't change altogether. So recognizing that white privilege, and recognizing that there's corrupt societal standards of racism that we just allow to consistently sink our ships is really what's happening. And finally, just a love for people, man. Like, politics aside, teams aside, differences aside, you gotta love people. And there's clearly one group that's being targeted with these covert racist acts. And in some cases, I mean, we're talking about George Floyd. That's an overt racist act. I mean, we're talking about a man dead on the streets. And not only that, but a black man dead on the streets. So, if that doesn't stir something up inside of you, then, I'm not sure, what do you stand for? Like, what do you stand on? What can you speak out for? I mean, we can't make any progress.
It is white silence. It's white silence condoning what happened to George Floyd. And that is a very deep and powerful statement. And what does that mean? What does that sound like? It might just mean asking somebody, what does that mean? What is it like to be black? Just asking. It might mean speaking up when you used to not speak up. It might mean a tweet. It might be you putting out a tweet. It doesn't matter. Doesn't mean necessarily how far you go on your silence. It's just a matter of not being silent, just talking. They just our black players expressed to us they want to hear the thoughts of their white brothers, their brown brothers, and their black brothers. That's what I took the most from our meeting.
We definitely wanted to hear our white teammates' thoughts on the situation because, like, when we go in the locker room, we have to be around them. So we don't want to, be uncomfortable with them in the locker room because we know that'll affect what happens on the field. So we just want to know their thoughts on the situation because they know they have black teammates, and majority of us on the team are black. We have some white players, but majority of us are black. I wanted everybody I knew that I was close with and was white, I wanted them to speak on the situation because I have to know what their feelings are about black people being continuously killed by policemen or abused by policemen in some way. I just want to know their thoughts on that. And if they think if it's wrong or not, or they just doing their job, I wanted to know that because then we can go, like Miles said, we can start to educate them on what is taking place. And I mean, it's on video. It's pretty common sense what's going on. But, some people are you just have to take the time to explain it and explain why Black Lives Matter, but not only Black Lives Matter.
Definitely. It's always great to know the backstories of your teammates. Even to sit down for an hour with just 10 of your teammates could bring you guys closer. Knowing where you come from, knowing where Zoe comes from, knowing where Hunter comes from, it's something that's going to stick with me, make me want to give my all for him on the football team. So everything that we're doing now, meeting on Zoom, just hanging out with our friends, it all means something. It's all going to show. Social media isn't the best thing that's happened with this, but it's a great thing because actually seeing what's happening with your own eyes in your home, and like Coach said, he has black players. Like, this could have been any one of us. This could be me in an hour. We really don't know. It just makes you feel it a little bit more. Now you're seeing it up close.
Social media does get a bad rep, on a lot of things, and a lot of stuff can get taken out of context. But at the same time, definitely it spread the message very, very fast. Just getting the message across and seeing, how many people are being affected by this situation. I think that social media helped get that whole point across. I think it helped get, wake up the people who are, anti-racist, but it helped them, learn that, it's not just enough to not, like racism, but as to actually speak up against that and, try and figure out how you can help, help the movement, help educate people in that and help ultimately stop this whole ordeal, as a whole and try and get as close to equality as we can.
At a young age, I was always taught that I was a student first. So I will never shut up and play. I go to school, I'm in college just like everyone else here, and they're not told to shut up and just shut up and read a book. How does that sound? Shut up and play. It's just not something that makes sense. I'm a student athlete and not an athlete first. I'll just use my platform to get these types of things out.
When I first heard of that, shut up and play, this is what I took from it. I took from it that they're scared of the power we have as athletes because they know, like, athletes are everything in the United States. If you're an athlete, you're held to a higher pedestal. You're put on a pedestal, no matter what color you are. So I feel like with them saying that, just shut up and play, they're scared of us putting it out there and coming together, making people come together and educating them on the situation that's going on in this country. So that's what I took from it.
The shut up and play statement, I think that was so big for us as athletes in general, because I think that pushed everyone to realize, like, how big our platform is. And I think people did exactly the opposite of that. LeBron took that and once LeBron took a stand on that, and then all the other professional athletes student athletes in college like start to realize the type of platform that we have. So it's not about us and just playing. And like Sheldon said, we're student athletes first, student first. So, just being able to realize the platform you have and the type of power that you have in that platform, I think we've definitely shut that whole shut up and play movement down, and we've done a lot more than that. And I think that goes for every athlete, every sport. So I think that's really what we've done with that.
Action. It's not good enough for me to just tweet it. It's not good enough for me to just post on Instagram, because there are also going to be people from communities and different communities that are going to show their support verbally. But until we act on this thing, nothing's going to change. And along with the education piece, continue to educate yourself. If you're not Black or if you're not a person of color in general, like, continue to reach out and find those resources to inch closer and closer to understanding the true situation at hand. And only then can we be enlightened enough to make big policy reform, big policy changes, and also force the hand of society to do something, because it's gone on long enough. Like, there are enough people sick and tired of it. And once we're all on board with that and we're all acting out in that manner, a professional manner as well, all using that pedestal to our advantage to really force, the lawmaking standards, then we'll see big changes being made. That's a start.
First off, we should truly understand both sides and get a grasp of what we should do and how could we find a solution out. That's it. Find a solution, get with your friends, get with your Black friends, get with your peers, have a conversation, talk, make the topic relevant, keep it in there. This isn't about a culture thing. This isn't about a food. This isn't about a sports thing. This is about right versus wrong, and what do we as a Black, as a whole, as a nation want to progress us forward.
We're going to all get registered to vote. We're going to all go vote. That's a simple thing, but we're going to do it. I'm going to make sure they're registered. It's one of those things we take it for granted. And I would hate to guess the percentage, the number of my players that have voted in the past, but it's going to be really high this year. Our chief of police on our campus, Chief Lewis, he's a Black man. He's our chief of police. He's going to be in our building. He's going to be talking to our players. We're going to know him. He's going to know us. Community service. What can we do? What can we use for our platform to keep it more relevant? It's going to be football season. 12 Saturdays in a row, we're going to be relevant. How do we use our platform? What are we doing community service-wise? So getting involved with the police, getting involved with the city of San Antonio, getting registered to vote. Those are some other ways we're going to use our platform that I've identified. And when we get back together, I'm going to have a leadership group that's voted on by their team and their coaches, and we're going to meet and we're going to have ideas for what type of community service ideas. What are some ideas we want to use for our platform? This is still new as far as just happening, even though it's been happening for years. It's new to these guys right now about their chance to move forwards. So when we get back together, that's some of my ideas. Get that leadership group together and take the idea of voting, Chief Lewis on our campus, getting that involved, and find some real ways, community service-wise, we can get back to the city of San Antonio. Those guys, we talked about it, and they're excited to serve in all those ways.
But that's where that, the patience and, I guess at the same time, maturity, on the subject as well as education. Like, I can't fault all police officers for the actions of a handful, obviously. And I'm not saying that there's only a handful of police officers in all the police forces. But just because the actions of these guys, I shouldn't be judging these guys over here. I have a very good amount of respect for police officers, because, it's not an easy job, and you're putting your life on the line every time you go out there. So you have to, when you have this conversation and it comes up, while being a person of color, I'm very passionate of it, because we are being targeted and racially profiled by the police force. But at the same time, I can't, be, disrespectful of, every single police officer, because that's not the actions of every police officer. So it is kind of a hard thing to balance, but you just have to pay attention to it.
My father is actually a police officer, and I know how hard this is on him right now. He's met a bunch of the players on the team, and it's really taking a toll on him right now, because having to go out there and in New Orleans, they're walking amongst the protesters. You know, the police officers most of them are just wearing regular clothes and walking with them. And it hurts him to have to wear that badge every day, knowing how a lot of people feel about it. And I have gotten both views from it. I know what's in his mind when he's going to stop someone. And I know how scary that also can be. So it's tough knowing both sides. I told my team this the other day in a Zoom meeting. We know who we are, but we don't truly know who we're going to be until we get there. And I say this because as of right now, we're in college, one of the most pivotal times in our life. This could make or break us, honestly. So this could set us up for 40 years for who we want to be one day. Mental toughness. We talk about it every day. You got to have mental toughness to get up every day and go work out on your own for 3 months straight without seeing your coaches. I mean, it's tough. But when you actually base those 5 things, you bring them into your life, you make that your lifestyle, it's easy. We're going to keep a set schedule. It's voluntary, but I bet everybody in San Antonio is going to be there, and we're going to make sure of that.
Playing football, you're going to go through adversity, so I feel like that has helped a lot. You know, Coach Traylor always says, you know, what you going to do when it don't go your way. You know, what you going to do, you know, when the chips don't fall your way. So that's what helped me a lot, just thinking about, you know, what I've been through in the past and on the football field and using the tools that was given to me to handle adversity and, you know, just put the blinders on and don't really too much worry about, you know, what's going on in the outside world.
There's nothing better than being on a team, man. We don't care. They don't care their coach is white and bald-headed and goofy. They don't care. They don't care. They want to win the game. It is what makes sports so fantastic. Our school colors might be blue and orange, but we bleed red, baby. We all bleed the same. And that's what it is, man. And that's why sports is so amazing. But it's forced me to get to know them, and it's forced them to get to know me. That's what sports does. And then that makes me proud. They didn't give up their teammates at all on one story. And it shows you what a team's like and why our locker room is so precious.